What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I'm going to break down what's going on with the QQQ, Nvda, Tesla, SPY, and many tickers out there. I'm going to talk about how the market's looking so far and some very important things to look at. And what happened with the data that came out for today that caused the market to sink the way it did, at least to some extent. But before I break anything down below this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. The offer ends in just 9 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So on the triple Q, this is what I'm basically seeing so far. Basically, this thing has this uptrend, this white line right here, acting as its support for the time being. And any break below this, right, could be a very, very big pivot signal for it. So far, we haven't really done that. We have a potential falling wedge that is developing on it, but I don't know how big of a bounce we're going to get from this if we do end up getting it. I want to also break down why the market has slowed down this way. So we had this data coming out in the morning. The market started off a little weak, and then we had all this data coming out from the manufacturing sector. You could see the Richmond Fed manufacturing shipments index came out. And this ended up seeing, a bit of a drop as we're seeing some weakness right here. You can see right over here, the composite manufacturing index is just the average of indexes of shipments and things like that, order supplies, number of employees. And it was looking kind of sluggish for August, which was an indication of a slowdown in the economy. So with that coming out, that played a role in why the market slowed. There's also the fact that Nvda has been slowing down as well. It's not really being able to break through key resistance. I was talking about this area in the morning, and I actually thought Nvidia would try to, hold around this 470 area. It actually broke even lower than that, which was pretty interesting. But the thing worth mentioning is this: when you look at the 4-hour time frame on Nvidia stock, and let's just hide these drawings for just a second, you will notice that the high Nvidia made right here, actually it's right here. Sorry about that. It basically formed this double top leg pattern on its 4-hour time frame. It really failed to break 480 as its resistance. So this level right here was acting as resistance, and it just failed to break this area. I told you, if you want to turn bullish on Nvidia, if you want to see this thing continuing to break out, it has to break and hold 480. If it did so, it could have gone to 500, but today it failed to break this. I told you, if we got this rejection, expect it to come down to at least 470. We actually went a lot lower than that. It actually continued to fall, which is just not the best of signs. So with that going on, now we're going to watch some new levels on Nvidia, and I'm going to go back to the QQQ after this. But basically, looking at the charts, if you're bullish, you want to see it bounce off this 450 area. If it manages to bounce from there, there is potential for Nvidia to try to push right back up to 4. First, it has to hold 456, then get back to 460, then break above the 20 EMA at 465-ish, and then we have 470 to come back for 475. That would be the more bullish case. The bears want to see it break below 450 to retest 446, 442, and then 436 below that. So far, it's looking more bearish. It's not really getting much of a bounce. So we're going to be watching to see how 450 treats it, especially 452. Watch these levels very carefully. We're just going to be unbiased for now and see which way it goes. It's looking like it's trying to base at this level, but the best thing to do is to always be unbiased. Now, I'm going to look at the MACD on Nvidia too. I just want to check one more thing about this. I'm not really seeing a divergence or anything like that forming for now. So we're going to be watching to see if it could base or not. It's getting closer and closer to some very important levels, like on the 4-hour time frames approaching the 20 EMA. So we're going to be watching these levels as supports very close to 450. Let's see if this holds or not. If it does try to get some kind of balance, this could help the QQQ. But what does worry me about the QQQ is the fact that, there could be this head and shoulders like pattern forming. Because when you zoom out, the thing about it is it's continuing to look relatively weak. And then if it does end up getting a bounce off this trend line right about here, you're going to be watching to see if this right shoulder does end up forming, if this is like a head and shoulders. So there could be like a left shoulder here, the head here, then a right shoulder form before it starts dropping. That's a real possibility. If that's the case, then maybe Nvidia gets a small bounce, but then after its earnings, things could go south from there. So there's a possible left shoulder here, the head forming. There might be a right shoulder forming before it ends up sinking. That could be one possibility. We'll have to wait and see on Nvidia's earnings for this to truly play out, and this could also be extended for tomorrow in particular. So it's very important to like watch it to see how this ends up moving. But if anything, it all depends on if we bounce here or not. And I don't want to just solely depend on these formations. We're currently testing 363. If that breaks, you're going to be watching 362.5 and then 362. If 362 breaks, you're going to be watching it come down to about 361.5, followed by 360 below that. If it breaks below 360, it's going to sink a lot lower. For it to bounce, it has to get above 363 and push back up to 364 plus. That would help this thing, if anything. But so far, it's looking relatively weak. So we want to see if it can try to bounce or not. Same thing with SPY. It's looking very, very weak. You're going to be watching 437.5. Could we get a bounce here or not? If we get the bounce off 437.5, that could actually help this thing continue to push right back up. But be very careful because there's a possible head and shoulders that could be forming. So I'd be very, very careful. But 437.5 is a key level. We want to see if it bounces there or not. If it fails, you're going to be watching 436.5 followed by the 435s. Those are going to be some very, very important supports. If 436.5 breaks, then it's going to likely come down to about 435.5, which is where our previous low happened to be down here. So you're going to be watching those levels very carefully. And if it tries to get a bounce, you're going to be watching it try to get above 439. 439 is the key level because then if it breaks that, it could get closer to like the 20 EMA at 439.5, then like 440 plus. But for now, we're just watching it. Can we get that bounce off 437.5? Can we bounce around this support line right here? We're just going to watch it to see if that could happen. So far, it's not looking that great. There's a possible falling wedge that could be developing on it, but it's not looking that strong so far. It's just a possibility, but the best thing to do is just watch and see if the bounce comes anyways. That's going to be more important than any kind of formation, whether it's head and shoulders or not. So watch support and do what you have to do. Now, to add on to this, looking at something else like Tesla, this is going to be the last one I talk about. I know the market is just continuing to weaken. Tesla came down to this 230 area. 230 is going to be our key support. If it bounces off 230, we could see, once again, 233, 235, then like 238 and 240. If it breaks below 230, you're going to be watching it come all the way down to much lower levels like 228 and then 225 or lower. How is it looking? It looks relatively weak so far, but we have to watch 230. That's going to be our key zone. Can Tesla break this and bounce, or does Tesla end up sinking lower below 230? That's going to determine which way it goes, so watch that very carefully. And finally, for Aapl, I think this will be the last one I talk about in this video. I want to keep this one kind of short. Aapl, we're going to be watching to see if this thing continues to sink. I drew these out in the morning. Either it comes down a little lower and then tries to bounce, or it drops like even lower. We're going to be watching to see if this thing could try to hold up. So far, it's barely holding above 176.5. If it does end up sinking lower, right, this thing could break below this support, and we're going to be watching the 200 EMA around this 176 area. If that breaks, you're going to be watching the mid 175s. So far, not looking that great. It's very, very flat, very choppy, not doing too much. For resistance, we have 177 flat and 177.5, 178 above that. Very, very choppy price action for Aapl. I'm not really expecting too much, but we'll see what happens at the end of the day. Do we get some kind of pump or not? We want to be open-minded. We want to see what the market does. There's lots of trickery, and we're going to be watching to see if we get those bounces. So on SPY and etc., watch and see if we get some kind of bounce. Do we get some kind of bounce or not? Or do we just kind of base around these levels? So watch them very carefully. Do what you have to do. There is a possibility that the market's trying to base right here. Could this be like an inverse head and shoulders is a possibility, but we need to see it break and hold above 439. If that happens on SPY, there's going to be potential for it to push to the 440 plus area. For now, we're just going to be open-minded. We're going to be patient. We're going to watch these levels carefully and do what we have to do. All right. So hopefully this was helpful. Watch the levels carefully, see if we could get some kind of bounce, and just be patient with it. I want to be open-minded, at least for now, after this negative news that came out from the manufacturing data. Until I see you guys again, take care. Thank you for listening, and peace out.